Lyra, the tooth fairy, soared through the starry night sky, her delicate wings shimmering like liquid silver under the moon's glow. She had been collecting children's lost teeth for centuries, flitting in and out of bedrooms unnoticed, leaving behind small gifts in exchange. Her magic had always been flawless, until tonight. She arrived at the home of a boy named Nathan, who had just lost his first tooth. His bedroom was neat, his pillow fluffed perfectly, with the tiny tooth resting beneath it. Everything seemed normal, but the moment Lyra reached for the tooth, a sudden snap echoed through the air. An invisible force clamped down around her, locking her in place. A strange blue glow surrounded her, and before she could react, a powerful suction pulled her downward. Her wings struggled against the force, but it was too strong. In an instant, she felt herself plummeting, through an unseen barrier, through space and time, until she landed with a hard thud on solid ground. Lyra groaned, shaking her head. The air smelled different. The soft, glowing atmosphere of the fairy realm was gone. Instead, she was surrounded by towering buildings, flashing neon lights, and the distant sound of car horns blaring in the night. Panic set in as she realized the horrifying truth: she was stuck in the human world. Her magic felt weak, her wings twitched, but she couldn't lift off the ground. She tried snapping her fingers to teleport home, nothing happened. The portal that had always existed between the fairy realm and the human world had sealed behind her. She was trapped. Lyra wandered the unfamiliar streets, clutching her tiny satchel of fairy dust. Humans walked past her without noticing her presence, too preoccupied with their glowing screens and fast-paced lives. She was invisible to them, just another forgotten whisper of magic in a world that no longer believed. She ducked into an alleyway, exhausted and confused. There has to be a way back, she whispered to herself. Hours passed as she searched for some form of magic, but the human world was devoid of it. She attempted to summon a portal again, but without fairy dust from her homeland, she couldn't generate enough power. Her stomach rumbled, a sensation she had never experienced before. Fairies didn't need to eat in the fairy realm, but here, she felt drained. Desperate for shelter, she wandered into a public library, slipping past the automatic doors just as they closed for the night. It was a vast place filled with books, quiet and safe. Lyra curled up in a corner, her tiny frame hidden among the towering shelves. She clutched a small, glowing crystal she always carried, a fragment of fairyland's magic. It was dimmer than before, a sign that time was running out. If she didn't find a way home soon, she might lose her magic forever. At dawn, she was woken by the rustling of pages. A boy with glasses, no older than 10, sat cross-legged on the floor near her. Unlike the other humans, his eyes widened when he saw her. "Whoa," he whispered. "Are you a fairy?" Lyra's breath caught. Someone could see her. Hope flickered in her heart. The boy's name was Oliver. He was quiet, curious, and, most importantly, he still believed in magic. "I used to leave my teeth under my pillow," he told her. "But I never thought I'd actually see a tooth fairy." Lyra explained everything: the invisible trap, the sudden pull into the human world, and her inability to return. Oliver listened carefully, his eyes wide with wonder. "You're stuck here," he murmured. "But maybe I can help." He led Lyra to his room, a small space overflowing with books, paper, and scattered science projects. Unlike most kids, he didn't dismiss the impossible. He believed that if magic existed, then there had to be a way to understand it. Oliver rummaged through his books, searching for anything about portals, lost realms, or fairy magic. But nothing in his collection explained how to break an invisible seal between worlds. Lyra sighed. The human world has changed so much. There was a time when magic thrived here. Now, it's almost gone. Oliver looked at her with determination. "Then we'll have to find the last bits of it." Together, they set out on a journey to uncover whatever traces of magic remained in the human world. Lyra and Oliver traveled across the city, searching for hidden magic. They visited old bookstores, ancient landmarks, and forgotten gardens where fairy tales whispered in the wind. They found remnants, faint traces of old enchantments embedded in the stones of an abandoned clock tower, a forgotten charm buried under an ancient oak tree in the park. But it wasn't enough to open a portal. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra's magic continued to fade. Her wings became translucent, and the glow in her crystal dimmed further. Then, one night, Oliver had an idea. The last time magic was strong in this world, he said, was when people believed in it. Belief. That was the missing key. If enough people believed in fairies again, it might generate the magic needed to reopen the portal. They started small. Oliver shared stories about fairies at school, encouraging other kids to leave letters under their pillows. Some laughed, but a few tried. Over time, the letters piled up. Kids wrote messages, asking questions, hoping for answers. And then, the impossible happened. One morning, Oliver ran to Lyra, breathless with excitement. Look, he held up a tiny, glowing speck in his hand. It shimmered with raw magic. People are starting to believe again. Lyra's heart swelled. The fairy dust was returning. With the newfound magic, Lyra and Oliver performed one final ritual. In the heart of the city, where an ancient wishing well still stood, they poured the gathered fairy dust into the water. The air shimmered, the ground trembled, and a soft golden light spiraled into the sky. A portal formed, a swirling doorway to the fairy realm. But something inside Lyra hesitated. Over the weeks, she had grown fond of Oliver. He had helped her in ways she never imagined. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked. Lyra smiled. "As long as you believe in magic, I'll always be here." With one final glance, she stepped through the portal. The moment she returned, Fairyland's magic surged back to life. The trees sparkled, the rivers glowed, and the fairies rejoiced. Lyra had done the impossible. She had restored the link between the fairy realm and the human world. From that night on, children across the world felt a renewed sense of wonder. More letters appeared under pillows, more wishes were made. And Oliver, he never stopped believing. Sometimes, when the wind whispered through his window at night, he swore he could hear the faint flutter of fairy wings.